Strict fuel economy regulations are forcing automakers to make big changes, and some of the biggest have come to pickup trucks. These typically thirsty workhorses are being taught efficiency, and each automaker is taking a different approach when it comes to the problem. But in the quest for MPG dominance, have these trucks forgotten what a hard day's work really feels like? To find out, we've gathered together two of the leaders in half-ton fuel economy to see which one of these trucks will save you money at the pump while still providing everything that makes a truck tough. The two different paths chosen to get to fuel economy here are pretty clear. Ram went the diesel route, opting for a 3-liter V6 diesel hooked up to an 8-speed automatic. Now this rig with 4-wheel drive as it sits is rated to return 22 miles per gallon. Now on the other hand, we have Ford, which answered the fuel economy question with EcoBoost, which actually seems to be Ford's answer for just about everything these days. Now in this truck, we have a brand new 2.7-liter turbocharged V6 hooked up to a 6-speed automatic. Now this rig is rated to return 20 miles per gallon combined. But I mean, that's just the numbers story. We're gonna get out there, we're gonna go for a drive, and we're gonna make sure we hook up a trailer to these two trucks to keep this contest honest and to figure out which one is the best. The first clear difference that you'll notice between these two trucks is that this Ram drives heavy. Now sure, it is actually heavier than the Ford, but I'm not just talking about pounds. The steering in this truck is heavily weighted. When you're taking corners, the truck just feels heavy. It likes to push. It also has this big, thick steering wheel. The hood is quite high, so you can't quite see the front end of the truck. The Ram really gives you the impression that you're driving a big rig. It just comes across feeling big and heavy and planted. And this diesel engine just adds to the feeling that you are a big rig driver. Of course, like any diesel, it's got great torque down low, but what's most important here is the 8-speed automatic transmission. It helps to keep you in the power band at all times. When you ask for more power, the downshift is smooth and immediate, and all the way running through the gears, every shift is seamless. And topping it off, diesel has a nice pronounced rumble. It's maybe a little louder than the EcoBoost in the Ford, but I mean, as a truck guy, I really like it. I like hearing that diesel come through into the cab. So if the Ram can be described as heavy, there's no doubt that the F-150 can definitely be described as light. In the Ford, the steering is light and the suspension gives you this really good agile feeling. Unlike the heavy Ram that likes to push through the corners, the F-150 actually tucks in and feels nicely balanced. The new 2.7-liter EcoBoost in the F-150 is a great little engine for the truck. More so than its numbers would suggest, it absolutely takes off coming off the line. And even though it's about 40 pound-feet down on this diesel, when that wave of turbo power hits, you probably wouldn't notice. But that's enough about these trucks empty. Let's hook a trailer up and really see how they pull. So now we've got just under 5,000 pounds hooked up, and I can tell you that both trucks handled it well, but there is some clear differences. In the Ram, that heavy planted feeling makes you feel really confident when you have the trailer, whereas in the Ford, because it's so light, the back end almost feels a little too light, and when you're coming through corners, you're going over broken pavement, it gets a little jittery, a little bit sketchy. It just doesn't feel quite as strong as the Ram does. Most of that can probably be chalked up to the Ram's 4-corner air suspension. Now it's an auto leveling system, so when you put a trailer on back there, it lifts up the back end, helping to distribute the weight around the truck and just making it feel more in control. It's also worth noting that this F-150 is an FX4, which means the shocks are tuned for off-roading, so it's possible that that played a bit of a role in it as well. Finally, let's talk about what these two trucks are really all about: fuel economy. I took them both on a nearly identical 40-mile loop to try to get the best number I could out of each truck. In this F-150 EcoBoost, the best I could manage was between 18 and 19 miles per gallon, and I will stress that I was trying to get good fuel economy. In the EcoDiesel, I managed a solid 26 miles per gallon, and that really shows you the difference between this turbocharged gas engine versus the turbocharged diesel. Best of all, I've noticed that when you're in the EcoDiesel, you don't even really have to try to get good numbers. You can put your foot into it, you can drive it pretty heavy, and it's still going to return solid fuel economy. When it comes to interiors, the trucks are pretty evenly matched, especially when it comes to usability. There's quite a bit of storage in each truck. Both of them have a full 3-prong plug, although the Ford does have 2 plugs, unlike the Ram, which only has 1. They both have plenty of USB connections, infotainment is solid, but I think the Ram just offers a little more style, a little more pizzazz that the F-150 just doesn't really have. There is one area where this Ford really outdoes the Ram, and that is with all of its little gadgets that just make it a great work companion. Now let me tell you what I mean. On this F-150 you have spotlights in either mirror, so if you're working at night you can light up the entire work area, not only in front of the truck but also to the sides. The F-150 also has a really great trailering screen in the info cluster. It will not only check your lights for you, but it'll also run you through a checklist to make sure you've hooked up your trailer correctly. Finally, and this is a big one, this Super Crew F-150 has a huge, completely flat loading floor in the back. Now this is the only truck in this segment to have a flat floor like that. Ram did come up with a solution with these little fold-out boards which are supposed to replicate a flat floor, but they're a little clumsy and a little flimsy, and I'd be worried that they would end up breaking, especially if you're loading something heavy into the back. There are 2 other thoughtful features in the bed of this F-150 as well. First is the box link system, which allows you to pull the cleats out and replace them with a number of different accessories you can buy from Ford. And second is a set of LED lights that actually have a switch inside the bed so you don't have to come up here in the cab to turn them on. It's those little things that make working with this truck so much easier than the competition. Well, now we know that this EcoDiesel is going to save you money at the pump, but is it really worth it to buy? Well, our F-150 as it sits is worth about $51,000. What's most important in that though is that this 2.7 liter EcoBoost is only a $795 option. Now on the flip side we have the Ram. This truck as it sits is worth about $55,000, but what's most important there is that the EcoDiesel is a $4,500 option. So you're paying a lot of money up front to get that diesel. So like everything in life, it really boils down to, is it worth the added cost? First of all, it's worth noting that gasoline and diesel are just about on par right now in the United States in terms of price. Second, I worked out that if you drive an average of 15,000 miles a year with the fuel economy numbers that I got, you're looking at between a $700 and $800 savings out of this Ram. I have to give this new F-150 credit for all of those really smart little features that make it a great truck to work with day in and day out. But when it comes to the big stuff, driving dynamics and fuel economy, there is no beating the Ram 1500 EcoDiesel.